out of my note taking. Like, I think I do a pretty good job, but every so often I think if a doctor or a physio or a chiro, like if one of them had to look through my notes, would I be embarrassed? Would I feel like they're kind of shitty? So I don't know. I
I
kind
mean,
of
you
like
might be
hearing
embarrassed,
that.
period. But I mean, not you, but just in general. But no one's any better, to be honest with you. Every clinic that I've worked at, every chiro, every physio notes I've seen, exactly like Nick said, they're kind of shitty. Do you know what I mean? I do have a question though about your hiring process, because I imagine, maybe it's just me because I've seen your office and I sat on one of the leather couches there. I imagine those 8 or 9 people through the hiring process. This is how I envision it. Because you've of course you've seen the Facebook movie. What's it called, man? What's that movie called?
Social network.
Yeah. So how he decides how he was going to bring people onto his team. That's how I imagine these guys doing it. Everyone's sitting around a dark room, right? A lot of booze going on, taking shots and programming. Please tell me that's the hiring process that happens there.
I've never met you guys in person, but he's painting a picture.
If we started this when I was in college, maybe.
Damn it, I was hoping that would just be the way it goes over there.
No, there was actually a couple of years back. I came over to Ryan's office when I was at the school, and I was thirsty, and they had stale coffee, and the only thing they had in there was a beer from 4 years. It was a 4-year-old beer. And I took it because I thought it's better than nothing right now. So that's the only time I've ever seen alcohol at the office.
That's the way I pictured it. Jeez, I was so wrong on that.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on. So tell us about the features that are on the platform now. Tell us about some of the changes that you've implemented since the last time we spoke. Give our listeners a piece of what it's like to use the platforms.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the last year, we've probably our velocity of development has definitely increased. So we're releasing a lot more. We have almost a release a day in our continuous development methodologies that we follow. They're not always newsworthy, but there's often often updates. But yeah, like the biggest thing, like in the last couple of years, like especially if you remember the Soap Notes, we completely revamped our calendar system. It's running on a completely new architecture, and it allows us to develop against it much faster and more efficiently, and it's far more scalable. So back in March, we actually had COVID literally push our release date out because we were supposed to release it in March, and everything was scheduled, and we announced it, and then COVID hit, and we had to make a decision. Like, we actually ended up holding off on the release of that calendar because so many people were using the calendar to cancel and remove appointments or reschedule appointments that we didn't want to just also have them go through a change of a calendar system. So we ended up delaying that. But now it's like if you check it out now, it's not comparable even to the previous version. So it's a much easier interface. There's a lot more flexibility built into it, and we have a lot more features coming to it. So even tomorrow we'll actually be releasing the multi-location feature. So you can actually create all the different locations that your clinic might have, and then be able to to associate your appointments to those locations. But then later on, we'll expand it out further so you can filter by locations, and we're going to add things like rooms and classes and other features that need locations in order to function. So the calendar system is one piece, and there's more that'll come to that. There's a lot of stuff on the list there, but and then there's also the billing side. So we built out I think it was about 2 years ago. We moved away from like soap notes and clinical notes being 1-to-1 with receipts. Like one major difference that at least that I believe to be true compared to other products or other solutions is that all of our pieces can be used independently. So if you only want to use billing, or you only want to use charting, or you only want to use the calendar, you could use them all independently, or only 2 of the 3. Ideally, if you use all 3 of them, they work better because everything kind of ties together, and there's less filling in of information because everything is really based on an appointment. That's a starting point, but you could use it independently. But we built out a billing system so that, our billing wasn't just tied into a soap note, which originally that's how it was. And so now you can create invoices and apply payments to those invoices, and patients can have account credits and discounts and all the common things that you would expect. You can export all these to Xero or QuickBooks for importing. we're not an accounting system, but you can do some of the initial requirements of accounting. So, accounts receivables and things like that. So that's kind of the other pillar. So there's like the scheduling pillar, there's the billing pillar, and then there's like your documentation and your treatment notes. So that would be intake forms as well, and charting. So, I'm on the tech side, so I'm kind of only learning this stuff through experience, but, there's also like subsections of clinical notes, like the assessments. Like we built an entire assessments, area of a clinical note, that Nick could probably explain better than I could, but it's quite granular in the details that you can track and potentially even track over time. So objectively.